Welcome to Whole CEO with Lisa G. I'm the best-selling author of The Boss Weight Loss. I'm bringing you the top tips to be unstoppable. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to actually pull up a chair with today's top experts in weight loss, mindset, and business. Learn our top tips to set you up for success so that you can have more energy, be fit and resilient, and feel unstoppable. She is a people, performance, and organizational culture strategist, international bestselling author, and keynote speaker, working with entrepreneurs and business executives to create exceptional workplaces and transforms individuals into leaders. Most recently, Dr. Shalini Nag has been named a top 20 consultant in Milwaukee, and she's traveled all over the world to 25 different countries. Is that right, Dr. Shalini Nag?
It is right. And please, Lisa, just call me Shalini.
Thank you. That's easy. I love your name. And welcome to Whole CEO with Lisa G. I want to know, what is the success delta and how did you create it?
Oh, wow, Lisa. I love that question always because it really taps into how I came to where I am today. Okay. And how I've seen other people reach this point. So years ago, when I was still doing my doctorate studies, I did reach a point where I was about to quit. I was 4 years into the program. One of the key requirements for basically graduating was you had to publish peer-reviewed papers. Wow. And I didn't see how I would do that. I was about to quit. And then due to a variety of circumstances, I ended up actually restarting my doctoral research in a different lab, in a different environment with a different advisor and team. And I ended up in 2 years completing my doctorate with publications and invitations to present in conferences and so on.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. The big question for me then was, if I'm the same person in both environments, what was different where one path took me to nearly quitting and the other took me to success? And I kept pondering that question even as I transitioned from being a scientific researcher to being a management consultant to being an entrepreneur. And I realized, especially when COVID hit, that the same situation or scenario was repeating itself in many ways. So I'd see entrepreneurs and leaders who, the moment there was a crisis, really basically just bucked up and they were growing. They saw the opportunity rather than the challenge. And then there were others who were spinning and they were just trying to figure things out and were really struggling, both mentally and emotionally, with how to move forward. And many of them were not moving forward. To me, that lent itself to actually talking with a lot of business owners, leaders, etc. And ultimately, my answer to the question, what's the difference between being good in stable times and actually thriving all the time, no matter what the challenges are, was the success delta, which is a combination of three things: trust, inclusion, and high development. So that's the success delta, and that's how I ended up creating it.
Okay, so by high development, I really love that because we've all been thrown in to such a point where we all need resilience, we all need to bounce back, and that's why I created the podcast, so people can be unstoppable. I want you to tell us how people can be unstoppable with your success delta by diving a little deeper into each of those areas. So why don't you start with the first one?
Absolutely. Here we go. So the three are trust, inclusion, and high development. Let's start with trust. In any situation, right, there are two main components. There's us, and then there's everything around us and everyone around us.
Right.
And a lot of times when we talk about, especially because I work in the space of organizational culture and leadership, a lot of the time people, first reaction they have is, oh, how do I get them to do this, that, or the other? How do I get the people to do things differently? How do I get my team to do things differently?
Right.
And my first thing is, how are you going to be different?
I love that.
And for trust, my biggest thing is The only thing that we need to do, and as an entrepreneur, Lisa, I'm sure you know this really well, and I think I've even seen you say similar things in your posts. For me, it is trust that every time you fail, you will get up and try again.
I love that one because, we've all been thrown into failure so many times as entrepreneurs. Definitely I have. And it's like fall down 9, get up 10. So
exactly.
Trust that you're going in the right path and that if you keep going, you can't fail.
Exactly. So the failure really only happens when you quit. So as long as we trust that every time we fail, we get up, then we can take risks and we can do things differently. We can try new things. And to me, that is the core. Most people, when we see failure, we see the potential of failure, we think, oh, what will people think? Or whatever it is, right?
Right.
That fear basically says to us, what if things don't go the way we want? Right. And if we believe that no matter how things go, we'll just get up and try again, then we just get up and get going.
Okay, so that's the trust. And then what is the second part after that, inclusion?
Yes. So inclusion comes from that distinction of, how do I really think about how I function? So we very often, what we do is we either look to ourselves for all of the answers. Yes. And this was especially true when I was a scientist, because we have this thing where you have to be extremely independent. You have to work on things yourself and get everything done yourself. As an entrepreneur, many people do fall into the same trap of thinking I have to do everything myself. But really, the more we listen to others who are going through their journeys, the more we explore the possibility that they have ideas or they have perspectives that have value to us. And even when the first time we hear something, it sounds contradictory to what we think, because we all have confirmation bias. We all prefer to be surrounded by others who believe what we believe. But when we are willing to listen to those who think differently, who are our greatest critics, that's when I think we are able to really grow from what we hear, what we learn.
So inclusion is not just only listening to people that say what you want to hear, but just trying to be open-minded. I love the idea of open-mindedness, that maybe you can learn from your biggest critics as well.
Learn from your biggest critics, learn from people who think and see the world differently from you, because they have a perspective and a lens that you don't, obviously, right? That's why they think or see differently from you. And all of us, like I always say, and I think in the space of culture, everyone says this, every individual has a unique culture because every individual has a different lived experience. We've all lived different lives. As a consequence, we've all learned different things and we accept different things as the truth. The more we listen to the different truths, the more the reality actually emerges.
I love that. Like to me, especially even during the pandemic, it's so interesting that there's some people that are really anti-vax, and then there's people that are really scientists like yourself and really into obviously the vaccination. But to me, I'd like to stay open-minded and try to learn from the other side too, even though I have an opinion and kind of conform. But at the same time, there's so many people in wellness and other spaces that are completely thinking differently. And I really always want to be somebody in life, no matter how old I get, to be open-minded and listen to the other side. So thank you for sharing that. And then the third one, let's jump right into the third part of your success delta.
The third one is high development. Always believe that there's another level to grow to and focus on developing to that level. That's it. It's simple.
I love that. Personal development is one of my favorite things. I feel like, you always have to be growing. You always have to be learning. And you can't come up to any situation thinking you know it all.
I agree completely. And I've seen, I think it was a quote that I saw, again, probably on LinkedIn, because that's where I spend a lot of my social media time. Somebody said, if you're not growing, you're dying. And I was like, I read that and I was, yep, that is true.
Well, thank you. I totally agree with you. It's so exciting to always be learning and evolving and not thinking you know it all, keeping open-minded, and we've all been through so much so that we can be resilient. So how do you power up your people with this success delta now that you explained more about it?
It's really the same concepts, just switching it outwards. So we always, whenever we want to do something, make a change, this because I've read your posts, I know that you know this. We have to start with ourselves, how we think, how we feel, how we respond, and not just react.
Right.
The next step, of course, is if you're leading other people, then you help them get to the same place. So instead of focusing on evaluating people, focus on developing them, right? Instead of telling people what they should be doing, ask them what they think they should be doing, help them find solutions, because I have only as many ideas as my brain can contain, but Lisa's brain and Shalini's brain together, for sure, double the number of ideas, if not more. In these situations, usually 2 + 2 is 11, rather 1 + 1 is 11 rather than 2. And so that's where the inclusion comes in. And then always, I hear this so often, especially as we moved from going virtual, and then now people are moving into hybrid or returning to the office. People keep asking me, how do I trust that they'll get the work done? How do we ensure that our people will get work done, et cetera, et cetera? Whereas on the other side, the teams are saying, oh my goodness, my manager has become such a micromanager, and so on and so forth. And really, it comes down to trust. If you try and micromanage me, I feel like you don't trust me. If you tell me what you need done and you trust me to find the solution, or you trust me to come to you for help if I need you to do something like remove some barriers, provide resources, whatever it is, then we have an equation where we are both actually contributing to our best ability.
I love that. That's why I wanted to have this conversation with you. I know we met each other on LinkedIn and follow each other, but I think that leadership, the more modern styles of leadership is moving away. I like the way you're moving away from this micromanaging, the old style of that image you have of the boss, to empowering people that you don't have to micromanage them, so that you can cultivate leaders within your organization rather than have these hierarchies. So I love the way that you think about modern leadership.
I love that you brought up hierarchies, and that we are moving away from the old way of doing things. The old way of doing things, I call it command and control. It was born of the fact, like when manufacturing became a thing for the first time and assembly lines were the way to go, everyone had a very, very specific role. And if you missed something in that particular path, everything would fall apart. But today, we're moving into the knowledge economy, so to speak.
Yeah.
Most of the things that can be done repeatedly are being done by robots, which means the value of humans really is in the space of creativity and wisdom, not in the space of doing repetitive tasks. Yeah. Which essentially means you need to tap into their wisdom and their creativity, and you cannot do that if you're telling them what to do.
I know, I agree so much. I really think I can learn so much from you about how I can be a better leader, because I always want to be learning and growing. And I struggle sometimes with, even within my staff, of people that work for me and help me with all my posts and all the things that I have to do. It's impossible to do it by myself, but I want to learn from you. So thank you so much. And where can people find you?
People can find me on LinkedIn. I post, as you know, almost every day of the week with tips, articles, strategies that they can use. And of course, there's my website. My company is called Avidasolve. So they can visit www.avidasolve.com. And of course, they're welcome to email me. So my email is very simple. It's my first name last name @avidasolve.com.
Oh, thanks, Shalini. It's so much fun speaking to you. Do you have any last final parting words on how we can empower people to be unstoppable in this new normal?
The one thing I'll say is it's a changing world, which means the old rules no longer apply. Just make your own.
I love that. What a wonderful way to end the podcast. Thanks for being on Whole CEO with Lisa G.
Thank you, Lisa.